Hey Philip, how you doing today?
Hey Eddie, I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Doing fantastic as well. Philip, today I want to talk to you about your fully managed sales development service so that buyers viewing this service offer in the CloudTools marketplace can decide whether to invite you for an interview for their service request or not. I have three questions that I want to cover with you, so let's get started. Number one is, who is the best fit for this service offer?
Yep, absolutely. So pretty much the companies that we work with, their focus is on the US and Canadian market. 95% of it is in the US. So that's where we do our outreach. When it comes to the type of companies that we work with, there are several qualifiers that we look in that we can make a client very successful.
Mhm.
One of those is they need to have a large enough total addressable market. Sometimes we do work with companies who their geographical location is a single state, for example, or a large metro area, but they need to be reaching out to multiple types of companies, SMBs, mid market, enterprise, you name it. So as a benchmark, we put at least 2,000 potential customers that are out there for us to fish and find and bring them to a meeting with them. The second thing really is pretty much the customer lifetime value. It obviously makes sense to produce an ROI out of this engagement and not just throw your money for more sales meetings. The benchmark there that we look at is about $20,000 for an average customer as a minimum. So any company that's selling a $50 per month software is probably not going to be a good fit, but we typically lean on higher ticket sales, projects that can go up to 5 or 6 figures for a customer. Those are the ones that we really shine in and make the most out of.
All
um,
right,
Other
fantastic.
than that, yeah, other than that, we need to have obviously trust in our client and their sales process. So they need to have a very structured sales team and a flow. So they need to know what to do in each step of the process so that they actually capitalize on all of the sales meetings that and business opportunities that we bring in front of them.
Perfect. So, just to quickly recap, they ideally should not be confined to a specific segment or a specific city. Ideally, a large TAM, minimum 2,000 potential companies or more, right? That's the first thing. Second one, their annual contract value, I would say you explicitly said $20,000 a year or more, ideally, in order for you guys to yield ROI and make your customers more successful. And the last one, structured sales process that you know exactly where you're plugging in, where you're handing off, and that gives you the peace of mind that everything you hand off to those client of yours will be handed appropriately, timely, in order to close as many of those opportunities that you're booking for them. Because correct me if I'm wrong, with this service offer, you are only booking the qualified meetings that your clients can then take and close. Is that correct?
Yes, that's absolutely right.
Awesome. So that takes me into my next question, which is, what are the components of this service software? If you can talk to us about maybe the channels, reports, a couple more details about the offer, please.
Yep. So as we mentioned, it's a fully managed sales development service. What we do is we deploy a full team. We call it a sales development unit, and it really consists of 4 people in that process. One of those is an SDR, sales development rep, and then we have an SDR manager, sales operations, and account management as part of the team. Now, each person has their own specific role in the process. The SDR obviously is that execution role, how we call it, the tip of the spear. That's the person that does the sales activities. They do the cold calling, the cold emailing. They're the ones reaching out to prospects and making sure that they're generating leads and booking those meetings. But the other 3 people are honestly as important as the SDR in the process. Starting off with the SDR manager, that's kind of like, if you think of it as a coach, a mentor to the SDR, someone who's there on a daily basis, looking over their pipeline together, listening to their phone calls, pretty much helping them improve their results, monitoring their progress. Someone who's there to always make you better, if I can put it in that way.
Nice.
The sales operations person is the one that handles and manages the tech stack. So all of the tech tools that we use for better outreach, for getting data, for messaging, for for A/B testing on that messaging. That's the person who handles this portion of the model. And then lastly, we have the account management, which does the classic account management duties. They're the ones who report to you. They're your contact person. We view them as kind of like the head of business development team. So you go to this person for just alignment with everything that's happening, results. Do we need to make any tweaks in the messaging, in the campaigns, any updates from a company standpoint? So that's pretty much how we have our team set up at the moment.
Excellent. So I can see a lot of value add because the companies are not just getting the rep, manager, sales ops, account manager. I wanted to confirm a few things. Is the rep a dedicated resource to your clients, or do they get shared among other accounts? And the same thing for the other support roles. Which of the roles that you explained are dedicated? Which ones could be shared with other companies?
Yep, that's a great question. So the SDR, they can be shared up to 2 accounts. So if they're working on your account, they might also be working on up to 1 more. There are some reps that are more seasoned with us that are on 2 accounts. There are other reps that are on 1 account, and sometimes they're doing I would even say kind of like part-time work on our internal Growth Era channel, so that they're getting more leads for us. When it comes to the other managers that are part of the process, the SDR manager typically manages about 7 to 10 reps at one time, while the sales ops and the account manager can go up to 10 to 15 accounts. So they're more distributed than the SDR.
Perfect. And lastly, you mentioned email calls. Are there any other channels that you use outside of email and call for this service?
Yeah, so LinkedIn is the answer. That's our third channel. Our primary focus has been lately in just cold calling. It's the channel that we see the most results coming in. Then second is the email channel, and third is LinkedIn. But we have dabbled in the past, and every now and then with just experimenting on Reddit, on Twitter, through SMS texting. So we're obviously not shying away from them, but we try to work towards what works best that we see as of late.
Awesome. That takes me to my last question, I would like for you to tell me, what can a client expect in the first 120 days of buying this service? If you can walk me through those milestones and kind of like that onboarding process, what that looked like, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. So typically our onboarding process lasts about 3 to 4 weeks. That's the period where we try to learn and understand as much as we can about the client. So their product or service, the value prop, the pain points that they're solving for the marketplace. In general, everything that we can in that 3 to 4 week span, and that involves meeting with them on several occasions so that we can drill deeper into some of those things, so that we can inherently design a better messaging strategy and a go-to-market strategy for them. We also share all of this with them so that they can review it, see if we got everything right for them, and that we'll be representing them in a good way. At the same time, we're training the SDR on that playbook, on that sales development playbook. And once we're ready to launch, the first 60 to 90 days, we inherently say it's early outreach. In this period, we're doing a lot of volume outreach, so we're pretty much trying to generate pipeline at this point. We're starting to generate pipeline, but the focus is more on actually seeing how the market reacts to the messaging, making sure that we're making the right tweaks, and that we're engaging with as many prospects as possible. Typically expectations can be low, but there are leads and meetings. Now it depends on the customer. There might be 1 or 2 for the first couple of months, but sometimes we've seen that it can be 10 or 15. It really depends on their product, their service, how well people are responding to it, that sort of thing.
It sounds to me like in that, let's say 60 to 90 day mark, there are some like you're validating the messaging, you're validating the leads. So rather than an expectation being a lot of meetings in that first, let's say ramp up first leg, 1 to 2 months of establishing the campaign, you're not looking to produce meetings, you're looking to validate that the process is working, that the message is the right one. And if it's the right one, then you increase, what would it look like activity levels, and that's when they should start to expect a couple more meetings around day, let's say 90 and onwards. Is that correct?
I wouldn't necessarily say that the focus is not on generating meetings in those first few months. The goal is always to generate as much as possible, even in the early period. But we tend to be more conservative in those first 60 to 90 days, just to make sure that, okay, what we're doing is very realistic. And once we fully ramp up, once we understand who we're selling to, usually a big win for our team is when we attend some of the meetings that we schedule and we hear how the client, they pitch and how they sell. And inherently we learn a lot from that process onward, and helps us out in not just the quantity of activities, but actually the quality of conversations that we're having moving forward.
Makes sense. By learning how the AEs are handling the conversations, you can also go back up the stream and improve the way you're outbounding, so that the buyers that you book into a meeting are actually better prepared for what's going to happen in that meeting. I guess the last question I have, to just make sure that I have all the expectations for the first 120 days clear, would be, how many contacts could, let's say if someone hires you for one rep, how many contacts would that rep would be able to process per month on average?
Typically up to 1,000 contacts per month. This number can go slightly down when we're going after enterprise type of accounts. So just because it's harder to get to people in enterprise sales, so we tend to lower the amount of contacts that we go after, but increase the number of touching points in the sequence, just so that this is what we recommend to anyone really, and what we see in that.
Perfect. Sounds like there are some thresholds that you recommend, but you are able to flex depending on the specific campaign of your customers. All right. Thank you, Phillips. Thank you so much for providing more details about your fully managed sales development teams, so that buyers viewing this service offer in the Kautos Marketplace can decide whether they want to invite you for an interview for their service request or not. Philip, thank you so much. I'll catch you on the next one.
Thank you, Eddie. Take care.